Well, the conversation on fuel subsidy in Nigeria will be incomplete without touching on the political perspective. To do justice to that, TV360 special correspondent Deji Badimosi joins us now on the news. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, the subject of fuel subsidy is certainly a very controversial one, which many administrations has had difficulty in scrapping. Why is that?
Well, because subsidy is not just about economics that the professor has talked about there, because the prof clearly dwelt on the economics of subsidy without actually looking at the politics of it. I mean, think of the time to President Obasanjo in 1999. President Obasanjo back then did try to remove subsidy. It became a very contentious issue. If there's any issue that labor unions in this country have gone on strike the most on, it is, of course, subsidy. And subsidy is something that affects virtually everybody, virtually everyone. Remember the huge protest we had back in sometime in 2010 under President Goodluck Jonathan, when he announced that he had removed subsidy and the country actually, grounded to a halt, if you like. Now, it is the politics of it that makes it very difficult for any government to remove subsidy. It's quite understandable that this present government is reluctant to remove subsidy at this time. Let's not forget what the government has said is that it will remove subsidy, but the issue of timing is a problem. And let me also say that timing has always been a problem. There's never been a right time to remove subsidy. Unfortunately, this time is even much difficult than we've had in the past. I mean, think of the cost of living now, Simi. Cost of living is very high. Inflation is over 15% as we speak. The next time the figure comes out, it might be heading towards 20% or close to 20%. So you look at inflation, you look at the cost of living in the country, things are very tough. Now, you remove subsidy at this time, it's going to be a very tough one for the government to do, because the government will definitely face a political backlash. Another reason why it's difficult for this government to remove it is because elections will be coming up in February. So the government is being careful careful so that it does not suffer any kind of political backlash, that the electorate do not take this against it. So essentially that's what it is. It's difficult to see it happen, but the truth is that at some point in time, perhaps we would come to that realization, just as the prof said, would come to the realization to see that this is unsustainable. The government would have to look for money to pay for this subsidy. We understand it's costing around 4.6 trillion naira annually based on the current figure. And from what we have seen, there's a likelihood that the price of crude oil will go up. So there's a possibility that subsidy payment will go up as well. So it's a tough one for the government. I don't know how the government will deal with this, but it's quite understandable if the government says, look, we're not going to remove it until sometime next year, when, of course, the government hopes the refineries will become operational, the Dangote refinery too will come on stream, and then it might be in a better position to remove it. But at this moment, politically speaking, if the government tries that, it's going to suffer a huge political backlash that could affect it in the coming elections. And it's essentially the reason why previous governments too struggled to remove it.
Now, with the 2023 general elections just less than a year away, do you see a new administration taking the bull by the horn?
I doubt if that's going to happen. I do not see it happening. And I think that's the reason why the Minister of Information put out that statement to say the government is not going to do it at this time. It's not as if the government actually wants this subsidy to remain. It wants it to go. But look, Simi, let's tell ourselves the truth. Should the government announce the removal of subsidy today, we know that the price of petrol will go to as high as 800 to 1,000 naira per litre. How many Nigerians will be able to put up with that? I can tell you, people will pour out on the streets. You see what is happening in Ghana now. We're seeing protests in Ghana almost on a daily basis. People are protesting against the cost of living. Petrol is one of the reasons why they are protesting. The price of petrol has really gone up. So I do not think this government will remove it. The government would not want what is happening in Ghana, for instance, to happen here, especially when it has a general election coming up next year as well. So it's a catch-22 situation for the government. How the government will raise the money to pay the subsidy? Well, we just have to wait and see. But the truth is that it's a difficult call to make. I do not think the current government will remove this subsidy till probably after the elections next year. Maybe the new government then will then decide how to deal with this. And even after the election next year, whichever government comes into power, still would not find it easy at all. Because I can assure you, should the government make any announcement along that direction today, the labor unions in less than 24 hours will be up in arms. And of course, they might be declaring a general strike. It's not impossible. We've seen this before, and I think it will happen should the government decide to remove subsidy. And that's the reason why, politically speaking, it's not convenient for the government to remove subsidy, and I do not think it's going to remove it.
TV360 correspondent Deji Badimosi, thank you very much for your contribution.